a world racing toward the future, we often overlook the quiet voices of those who have already walked the path we're on. The elderly, our parents, grandparents, mentors, carry within them a wealth of wisdom carved by time, trials. Their stories are not just memories, they are roadmaps. They have known love and loss, failure and success, peace and chaos. They have seen how choices shape destinies and how values outlast possessions. If we just pause, listen, and learn, we can gain life-changing insights without having to pay the price they did. Today, let us uncover 5 powerful life lessons from the elderly, truths that have the power to transform the way we live right now. Before we begin, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any video. Lesson number 1. Time is the real currency of life. When you're young, time feels endless. Mornings come and go, weeks blur into months, and years pass almost unnoticed. But speak to someone who has lived through 7 or 8 decades, and you'll hear a very different truth. Time is the most precious, most fleeting, and most valuable currency we have. Unlike money, you can't earn more of it. Unlike possessions, you can't store it. And unlike opportunities, once it's gone forever. The elderly often look back not with regret over the money they didn't make or the promotions they missed, but over the moments they didn't fully live. They remember birthdays missed because of work, walks they postponed that never happened, phone calls they didn't make, and people they assumed would be around forever but were gone too soon. The truth hits hard. Time is life itself, ticking away quietly, whether we pay attention to it or not. When you look into the eyes of someone in their 80s or 90s, you often see something deeper than wisdom. You see clarity. They've seen the seasons of life. They've watched their children grow up and grow old. They've stood by graves and held new grandchildren. Through it all, they've come to realize that no possession, no achievement, no luxury can ever replace time. They would trade all their wealth just to have more of it. More time with their families, more time to pursue passions, more time to simply be. They speak of how time was often wasted on things that didn't matter. Arguments over egos, years spent trying to impress others, long hours chasing approval, or entire phases of life lost to resentment or fear. These are the silent thieves of time. The elderly remind us that each minute we spend angry, distracted, or disengaged is a minute we'll never get back. And yet, in our business, we often act as if time is unlimited, pushing off the important conversations, delaying happiness for someday, thinking we'll have another chance to say what we feel. But someday is not a guarantee. Time doesn't shout for our attention. It moves quietly, patiently. That's why it's so easy to squander. But once a certain age comes, when the days ahead are fewer than the days behind, time begins to shine in its true light, as something rare and sacred. The elderly often speak of how fast it all goes. It feels like yesterday, they say, the memories of youth, of falling in love, of raising children, of building careers. They all come back in flashes, like pages in a photo album turning faster than you can hold them still. They teach us that how we spend our time is how we shape our lives. You can rebuild finances, fix relationships, or try new careers, but you can never reclaim a lost year. And so, they urge us to pay attention, to wake up from the illusion that there will always be more time. They encourage us to spend more time with those we love, to travel while we can, to laugh more freely, to forgive more easily, and to live more intentionally. They don't speak in cliches. They speak from lived experience. Many of them wish they had spent less time worrying about things that didn't matter. They wish they had taken more chances, spoken their truths earlier, or followed their hearts more boldly. These reflections are not meant to depress us but to awaken us, because we still have time. The question is, how will we use it? We often make the mistake of measuring by the big moments, graduations, weddings, new jobs, holidays. But the elderly know that the real richness of life is found in the ordinary. The shared cup of tea, the quiet moments of reflection, the early morning walks, the unexpected kindness from a stranger. They teach us that we don't have to do extraordinary things to live a meaningful life. We just have to be present in the time we're given. Even as their bodies slow down, many older people become more emotionally awake. They learn to savor life's rhythms. They no longer chase time. They honor it. There's beauty in that surrender. And it's not about giving up on dreams. It's about learning to live without rushing, without needing to prove anything. They remind us to stop waiting for the perfect time, to be happy, to say, "I love you," to make a change or to start again. In the end, when the clock runs out, it won't be the things we bought or the titles we held that matter. It will be the people we loved, the time we gave them, the memories we created, and the lives we touched. That's the real wealth. So, while we still have mornings ahead of us, let's use them well. Let's not wait for a wake-up call from old age to understand the value of our days. Let's take the lesson the elderly offer, wrapped in the silence of their reflections, in the softness of their voices, and in the tears behind their smiles, and live with the urgency and gratitude that time deserves. Because time isn't just passing, it's shaping us, it's defining us, and one day, we'll look back and realize, it was never just minutes and hours. It was our whole life. Lesson number 2. Relationships matter more than achievements. There comes a time in life when the shine of medals, the applause of crowds, and the thrill of accomplishments begin to fade. What remains, what truly lingers in the heart, are not the achievements we've gathered, but the relationships we've nurtured. Elderly people often speak great clarity about this truth. After decades of chasing success, building careers, and achieving goals, many realize that the most valuable parts of life were not the things they achieved, but the people who stood beside them along the way. In the early and middle stages of life, ambition often takes center stage. We work late hours, say no to family dinners, and cancel plans with friends, all in pursuit of goals. We believe that success will bring happiness, recognition, and a sense of fulfillment. And yes, achievement has its place. It can inspire and uplift, and it often brings financial security. But it is not what fills the soul. Elderly voices remind us that when we reflect on our lives, it's not the awards on the shelf that warm our hearts. It's the faces around the table, the hands we held, and the love we gave and received. People who have lived long lives often recount stories, not about titles or paychecks, but about laughter shared with childhood friends, the comfort of a spouse's support during tough times, the pride in a child's smile, or the joy of friendships that lasted decades. These are the treasures that cannot be replaced. They are not written on resumes, but they are etched into the heart. Achievements can sometimes isolate us if we're not careful. The more we climb, the easier it becomes to lose touch with ourselves and with others. We start defining our worth by results, forgetting that our real legacy lies in how we treat people, how we show up for them, and how we make them feel. The elderly know this well. Many of them have seen friends pass away, relationships drift apart, and families break under the pressure of ambition. They've felt the sting of missed moments and the ache of time that can't be reclaimed. A job can replace you the next day, but a friend, a child, a partner, these roles are deeply human and irreplaceable. The people we care about are not footnotes in our journey. They are the main story. And when we put them second, thinking there will always be more time to make it right, we risk losing what truly matters. Elderly individuals often speak of the small things, the everyday gestures that built deep relationships, a phone call to check in, sitting beside someone in silence during their grief, showing up when it wasn't convenient, listening, truly listening, without needing to fix anything. These simple acts create bonds that no title or trophy ever could. It's not the grand moments that form the foundation of love and connection. It's the consistent, quiet presence we offer each other. There are people who have stood on stages and received applause from thousands, but still feel a deep loneliness because they never allowed anyone close. And then there are those who may not have had extraordinary careers, but lived extraordinary lives simply because they loved well. The elderly teach us that to be remembered with warmth and reverence has less to do with what we built, and more to do with who we were to others. Were we kind? Were we dependable? Did we forgive easily and love unconditionally? Relationships also bring meaning to our hardest moments. Success can feel empty when you're celebrating alone, but even ordinary days become beautiful when shared with those who care. During illness, loss, or transition, it's not achievements that hold us together. It's people. It's the presence of someone who sits by your side and says, "I'm here." In those times, we come to understand that real strength is found not in independence, but in interdependence. As people grow older, they often try to repair broken relationships. They reach out to estranged siblings, forgive old betrayals, or express love they were once too afraid to show. They do this not because they want to rewrite their past, but because they finally understand that connection matters more than pride. They know that healing is more important than being right, and that life is too short to let go unspoken. We would be wise to learn from this. We don't have to wait until our hair turns gray or our knees grow weak to realize that relationships are everything. We can choose now to prioritize people over pride, connection over competition, presence over productivity. We can choose to listen more, judge less, and love better. In the end, the measure of a life well lived isn't found in a bank account, a title, or a trophy case. It's found in the hearts we've touched, the lives we've lifted, and the love we've given freely. When we look back on our lives, it will be the faces, the voices, the shared moments that bring a smile, not the certificates on the wall. That is the wisdom the elderly offer us, not as a warning, but as a gift. A reminder that life is richer, fuller, and more meaningful when it's rooted in love and relationships, not just accomplishments. Lesson number 3, simplicity leads to contentment. There's a quiet power in simplicity that many people overlook in the rush of modern life. In a world constantly chasing more success, more possessions, more status, the elderly often carry a calm reminder that happiness was never meant to be complicated. With age comes perspective, and for many who have through decades of both abundance and scarcity, one lesson stands clear: simplicity leads to contentment. Speak to those in their later years, and they will often tell you that the best times of their lives were not wrapped in luxury or grandeur. They remember the smell of home-cooked meals, conversations around the dinner table, long walks in nature, and moments of peace at sunrise. These weren't moments filled with noise or excess. They were simple, but deeply filling. The joy wasn't in what they owned, but in how present they were. As people age, their priorities shift. The big house becomes less important than a warm, quiet room. Fancy gadgets become irrelevant next to the company of loved ones. Expensive clothes lose their meaning when comfort and practicality take over. Through experience, the elderly realize that most of what we think we need, we don't. The endless pursuit of more often creates clutter, both physical and emotional. And in that clutter, peace is lost. Simplicity isn't about living without. It's about living with intention. It's choosing what adds meaning and letting go of what doesn't. Many older people reflect on how much energy they once spent on things that didn't matter. Trying to impress others, keeping up with trends, accumulating stuff just for the sake of having it. With time, they've come to understand that freedom comes not from adding, but from subtracting. When you remove the unnecessary, what's truly valuable comes into clearer focus. Living simply also brings clarity to the mind. When life is stripped of distractions, space is created. For thought, for creativity, for presence. Many older adults speak of how much peace they found in quiet routines, in tending a garden, in reading a book without rush, in having a daily rhythm that brought stability. In these moments, life slows down, and in that stillness, contentment blooms. There's also a spiritual depth that often comes with simplicity. The elderly know that meaning isn't bought, it's felt. A simple life often leads to a richer inner life. When you're not chasing the next thing, you're more in tune with yourself. You're more grateful for what you have, more attentive to the people around you, and more grounded in the present moment. Simplicity allows gratitude to grow, and gratitude is the very soil of contentment. The irony of modern life is that with all our advancements, many feel more anxious, more overwhelmed, and more dissatisfied than ever before. We're constantly bombarded with messages that we're not enough, that we need more to be happy. But the elderly prove that the opposite is true. They teach us that contentment is not found in abundance, it's found in appreciation. You don't need a lot to be happy. You just need enough. And the wisdom to know what enough is. Simplicity also strengthens relationships. When life isn't consumed by business or material pursuits, there's more time and space for real connection. The elderly often recall the importance of shared meals, handwritten letters, and uninterrupted conversations. In simpler times, people talked more, laughed, and cared more. They built bonds not through grand gestures, but through consistency and presence. Simplicity fosters intimacy, and in that intimacy, life becomes more meaningful. There's a deep dignity in living simply. It's not about poverty or deprivation. It's about understanding what truly enriches your life and letting go of the rest. The elderly remind us that the size of your home doesn't measure your success, and the brand of your clothes doesn't reflect your worth. What matters is how you live, how you love, and how at peace you feel within your own heart. Of course, simplicity doesn't come automatically. It requires courage. In a society that praises more, choosing less can feel radical. But the elderly have already walked that path. They've learned, often the hard way, that life is not a competition. It's a gift, and to enjoy the gift fully, you must stop rushing, stop comparing, and start savoring. One of the most profound aspects of growing older is the shift in perspective from quantity to quality. Whether it's how they spend their days or who they allow into their lives, the elderly often focus on depth rather than breadth. They choose fewer things, fewer commitments, fewer distractions, but they choose them with care. And in doing so, they create a life that is light, yet full. Simplicity is not about retreating from life. It's about engaging with it more fully. It's waking up with a calm mind, spending time with people you love, doing work that feels meaningful, and ending the day with a sense of peace. That's the life many elderly people have come to value, and it's a life we can all begin building. Today, right now, not through a major change, but through small, intentional choices. In the end, simplicity doesn't take anything away from life. It gives it back. It gives us time, space, clarity, peace, and presence. It reminds us that we already have so much to be grateful for. And in that awareness, we find the quiet, lasting joy that so many people spend their whole lives searching for. Lesson number 4. You're never too old to change or grow. There's a common misconception that growth belongs to the young, that change, reinvention, and discovery have an expiration date. But if you sit down with someone in their 70s, 80s, or even 90s, you'll quickly realize how false that belief truly is. The truth is, you're never too old to change or grow. The elderly, who've witnessed the tides of life shift in ways both gentle and violent, often prove that transformation is not a privilege of youth, but a power of the human spirit at any age. Many older adults have gone through several lifetimes within one. They've started over after losing a spouse. They've learned new skills in their 60s. They've taken up painting, writing, gardening, or even returned to school. Some have traveled the world after retirement. Others have healed old wounds, reconnected with estranged loved ones, or found their voices in ways they never did in earlier years. Their lives are living proof that growth isn't just possible in old age. It can be more meaningful than ever before. Change doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes, it's found in quiet courage, the courage to let go of long-held fears, to forgive someone after years of silence, or to open up emotionally after a lifetime of being guarded. The elderly often speak of how their later years have brought a sense of emotional freedom. They care less about the opinions of others, and more about living in alignment with their truth. That, in itself, is powerful growth. It's easy to assume that people become fixed in their ways as they age, but that's not entirely accurate. While habits may become more ingrained, many older people remain open to change. Especially when it comes from within, they understand that life is short, and wasting it stuck in bitterness, fear, or rigidity is the real loss. So they choose differently. They try to become gentler, wiser, more patient. They laugh more. They embrace change, not because it's easy, but because they've learned it's necessary. There's also a beautiful honesty that comes with age. With time, pretenses fall away. Older individuals are often more willing to admit mistakes, confront truths, and seek healing. That willingness to reflect and grow, even in their later years, shows a kind of strength that younger generations can admire. Growth isn't about speed or scale. It's about direction. And even a small step forward, taken at 80, can be more powerful than a giant leap taken at 20. Technology has also shown us how adaptable older people can be. Many seniors today use smartphones. They join social media, take online courses, and video call their grandchildren. They are learning and evolving in a world that is constantly changing. And they're doing it with curiosity and resilience. It's not always comfortable, but they do it anyway. Because growth isn't always about comfort. It's about choosing to stay engaged with life. Emotional growth is another area where many elderly people blossom. With years of perspective behind them, they often develop a deeper sense of compassion. Not just for others, but for themselves. They begin to understand that perfection was never the goal, and that self-acceptance is the highest form of peace. This realization often leads to healthier relationships, more meaningful conversations, and a softer, more open heart. Some people find their greatest purpose later in life. After retirement, many begin mentoring others, volunteering, or starting passion projects they never had time for before. They discover new callings that have nothing to do with earning money or gaining status. Instead, they pursue what feeds their soul, and in doing so, they redefine what it means to live a full, impactful life. The idea that it's too late is perhaps one of the most damaging lies society tells. The elderly know that growth has no deadline. Whether it's starting a new chapter, letting go of the past, learning something new, or simply choosing to see life differently, change is always within reach. The only requirement is the willingness to try. Aging does not mean becoming stagnant. On the contrary, it can be a time of deep renewal. The mind may slow, the body may weaken, but the spirit, the part that seeks connection, meaning, and expansion, remains alive and capable. Growth at its core is about becoming more of who you truly are. And sometimes, it takes a lifetime to strip away everything you're not. So many elderly people wish they had believed earlier that change was possible. But even with limited time, they show us it's never too late to begin. Whether it's a new habit, a new mindset, a new relationship, or a new dream, the window of growth never really closes. As long as you're breathing, evolving is still an option. We all have the capacity to change at any moment. The elderly remind us of this not with theories or promises, but with their lives. Their courage, their resilience, and their quiet transformations show that no matter how many years have passed, the human soul is never done growing. And maybe that's the most hopeful lesson of all. That becoming better, braver, kinder, or freer is always within reach, no matter how late you start. Lesson number 5, gratitude is the foundation of a fulfilling life. A gratitude is one of those quiet virtues that doesn't often make headlines. But when you talk to people who have lived long, full lives, you begin to understand that it's not just a feel-good emotion. It's the foundation of a fulfilling life. The elderly, having weathered decades of change, joy, loss, struggle, and triumph, often speak with deep conviction about the power of gratitude. It's not just something they express, it's something they live by. And through their stories and reflections, one truth becomes undeniable: a grateful heart is a content heart. For many older people, gratitude didn't come from a perfect life. It came from the ability to find beauty even in imperfection. They've lived through wars, recessions, personal losses, and disappointments. They've lost loved ones, missed opportunities, and seen dreams slip away. Yet, when they speak of their lives, they often do so with warmth and appreciation. They don't dwell on what they lacked, they remember what they had. A warm home, a kind neighbor, a child's laughter, the ability to walk in the sunlight. These are the moments they treasure. Gratitude, for them, is not tied to grand events, but to ordinary blessings noticed over time. One of the reasons gratitude is so powerful is because it shifts our focus. In a world that constantly tells us to want more, achieve more, and be more, gratitude tells us, what you have is enough. It teaches us to pause, look around, and acknowledge the gifts that already surround us. And this perspective brings peace. The elderly often speak of how their later years, though quieter and slower, have been some of the most joyful. Precisely because they've learned to appreciate the small things. A phone call from a grandchild, a morning cup of tea, a breeze through the window. These moments carry weight when seen through the lens of gratitude. Gratitude also deepens relationships. Many older people reflect on how expressing appreciation strengthened their marriages, friendships, and family bonds. Saying thank you, and noticing the efforts of others, and acknowledging kindness builds a bridge between hearts. Gratitude softens us. It removes the hardness of pride and entitlement, and replaces it with humility and connection. The elderly often regret not saying, thank you, more often. Not because it was expected, but because they now understand how powerful those two words can be. Living a life rooted in gratitude also enhances emotional resilience. When challenges arise, and they always do, grateful people are more likely to recover, to maintain perspective, and to find meaning in their pain. Older individuals often talk about how gratitude helped them through loss or illness. Instead of being consumed by what they couldn't control, they focused on what they still had: love, memories, moments of joy. Gratitude didn't erase their pain, but it helped them carry it with grace. There is also a deep connection between gratitude and presence. The elderly often speak about how quickly time passes. One minute you're raising children, and the next you're watching them raise their own. Gratitude helps anchor you in the now. It teaches you to savor life while you're living it. To be grateful is to say, I see this moment, and I'm thankful for it. And when you live like that, moment by moment, you create a life that feels full, not because you had everything, but because you truly saw everything you had. What's most striking about gratitude is that it doesn't require wealth, youth, health, or status. Anyone can practice it. In fact, some of the most grateful people are those who've had the least. Many elderly individuals who lived through hard times recall how even with very little, they felt rich in love, laughter, and community. Gratitude transforms scarcity into sufficiency. It makes even a modest life feel abundant. Practicing gratitude also brings a sense of legacy. Older people often hope their children and grandchildren will carry on not just traditions or values, but an attitude of appreciation. They want younger generations to understand that happiness doesn't come from always reaching for what's next, but from recognizing the value of what's already in your hands. Gratitude is a gift that can be passed down, not just in words, but in the way we live each day. In the final chapters of life, when achievements fade and physical strength wanes, a gratitude remains. It becomes a source of inner strength, a quiet joy that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Many elderly people radiate peace, not because they've had easy lives, but because they've learned to say, I am thankful. Still, they've made peace with what was, and they find beauty in what is. Gratitude is not just an occasional feeling. It's a way of life. It is a choice, a practice, a perspective. And when embraced fully, it colors everything with meaning. The elderly, with their years of lived wisdom, teach us that a grateful heart is the soil where true fulfillment grows, not because life was perfect, but because it was real, shared, and appreciated. So if we want to live well, not just exist, but truly live, we must learn from those who have walked ahead of us. We must start counting our blessings instead of our complaints, acknowledging our joys instead of our lacks. Because gratitude doesn't just make life better, it makes it enough. And in that simple, powerful truth lies the key to a life that feels rich, no matter what age you are. These lessons aren't just advice, they are truths paid for in decades of living. And yet, we can inherit them free, if we only listen. The wisdom of the elderly is not outdated, it is timeless. It speaks to our restless souls and reminds us what really matters: time, love, simplicity, growth, and gratitude. So, before we rush forward, let's look back, with respect, with humility, and with open hearts. Because sometimes, the best way to move ahead is to learn from those who've already been there. God bless you.